During the 1990s, Marvel Entertainment Group, the at the time television branch of the comics publisher, had enjoyed some real success with animated adaptations of some of its most iconic characters. This had started with X-Men, which was achieving record ratings for the Fox Kids network, largely due to a very successful partnership with production company Saban Entertainment and the strong leadership of Fox executive Sidney Iwanter and studio head Margaret Loesch, who had a keen understanding of what it was that made these characters appeal to so many viewers. In 1998, Fox released The Silver Surfer, an adaptation of the same titled character from the comics. The Silver Surfer had made appearances before in the Fantastic Four animated series a few years earlier, but this series was set in a different continuity and would instead focus on the cosmic-based characters of the Marvel Universe. Sidney Iwanter approached television writer Larry Brody to be the showrunner. His previous work had involved writing on the animated Star Trek series as well as several of the live-action Star Trek shows. Iwanter picked Brody after learning of his lifelong love for the character. The story focuses on Norrin Radd, who lives on the planet of Zenn-La, a place of peace where all who seek greater understanding of its principles are welcome. Zenn-La's importance as a beacon of hope to the universe leads to the mysterious being known as the Watcher to break his sacred vow of silence in order to warn them of the imminent threat of Galactus, devourer of worlds. With no hope of stopping a being of such incredible power, Norrin Radd makes a bargain with Galactus, offering himself as a herald to assist in searching worlds that will sate his incredible hunger, in return for sparing Zenn-La from destruction. Norrin Radd does this believing that he will be able to find uninhabited worlds, saving those teeming with life from annihilation. Galactus alters Norrin Radd at the molecular level, turning him into the Silver Surfer, a being with incredible powers and the ability to traverse deep space by use of a cosmic surfboard. I love the 60s. However, Norrin Radd's plan is undone when Galactus also blocks his memories of his past life, leaving the Surfer completely obedient to his master. In a moment of tragic irony, the Surfer's first act upon looking back at his forgotten homeworld is to suggest Zenn-La as a fitting meal. However, Galactus decrees that that world is not for him, as he has made a promise.
Intergalactic genocide aside, Galactus is a pretty stand-up guy.
And so the Surfer begins to search the cosmos for worlds so that his master may feed. Main theme and intro.
That was awesome.
Dramatic, epic, and very brief, the sequence is made up from footage from the season and quickly establishes the main protagonist and what can be expected in the series. I did attempt to learn the meaning of the words being used, but was sadly unable to. Design and style. Fans of the Silver Age of comics will straight away see that the design of the show is a love letter to the comic artist Jack Kirby. For those of you who may not know, Jack Kirby was the co-creator of the majority of Marvel's most iconic characters. It's a common misconception that Stan Lee solely was responsible for the Marvel Universe, and while there is no denying that he was a major driving force of what made Marvel great, none of it would have happened without Jack Kirby's incredible creativity and boundless imagination. Influences from the original Silver Surfer art, as well as the DC Comics characters The New Gods, also a creation of Kirby's, can clearly be seen in the overall look and tone of the show. The animation was done by ACOM, a Korean company with the style being very similar to their earlier work on X-Men the animated series. Other series they produced included the cult classic The Tick, Earthworm Jim, Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Wars, and G.I. Joe Extreme.
They were so much more extreme than regular G.I. Joe.
All 13 episodes were directed and co-produced by Roy Allen Smith, who again is a veteran of the industry, working in various areas of animation on shows which include Muppet Babies, Family Guy, and Ren and Stimpy.
That is an odd mix.
The The Silver Surfer is unique for a cartoon of its period as it employed computer-generated images in some backgrounds and with certain characters, the most prominent being Galactus. But so that it would not stand out too much, the CGI was completely cel-painted, giving the show a fresher, more dynamic look to anything else being made at the time. This was developed by art director Dale Hendrickson, whose work spans 30 years, including He-Man, Bravestar, and the real Ghostbusters, but will be most famous for his character design work on The Simpsons and later on Futurama. In order to achieve the effects needed, Hendrickson had to create a CGI department from scratch for Saban Entertainment, as they had nothing like that there at the time. His work led to the episode being nominated at the Annie Awards for Outstanding Individual Achievement for Production Design in an Animated Television Production. Story and characters. The show stays very faithful to the source material, with certain changes made to suit the television format, the most notable being the removal of the Fantastic Four, who in the comics had a major impact on the Silver Surfer. Instead, the focus is on far lesser known characters from the cosmic corner of the Marvel Universe, the most prominent being Thanos, who is the main villain of the series, and in this interpretation, the one responsible for restoring the Silver Surfer's memories and freeing him from Galactus' control. The series works in a serial format, following the Surfer as he comes to terms with the horrific consequences of his actions. Along his journey, he meets a whole host of characters, including Ego the Living Planet, Nova, Drax the Destroyer, Pip the Troll, Nebula, Beta Ray Bill, and Adam Warlock. The show also embraces some of the more obscure lore of the Marvel Universe, including the cosmic entities Infinity and Eternity, as well as the previously mentioned Watcher. Brody stated that at the time no other children's cartoon features as much dialogue, and that was very likely true. With a strong focus on melodrama, set in space and on other worlds with larger-than-life characters, it fits oddly well. The Surfer often laments his actions and his purpose for being during the series, and every episode features him with some form of moral or ethical dilemma. Brody has said that he based the Silver Surfer on Captain Kirk, seeing him as a man with a strong moral stance, and there are definitely elements and themes that are shared with Star Trek running through the show, very likely as a result of Brody's experiences writing for that universe. However, the show is very much a product of the 90s, and something none of the Marvel cartoons of that period got quite right was young people speak.
Marvel just weren't down with the kids.
Jubilee in the X-Men animated series is a prime example of this, and sadly Silver Surfer has someone equally as jarring in the form of Frankie Ray, a teenage girl who through clumsy exposition we learn has the ability to uncannily find things, leading Galactus to make her the Silver Surfer's replacement. The writers attempt to use her as someone the audience can relate to, but the dialogue just doesn't work, often disrupting the story. Pip the Troll also suffers from weak one-liners and non-fitting attempts at humour. The show also relies too heavily on recaps, often affecting the pacing of the narrative. It works best when it maintains a serious tone and embraces the mad ideas of its source material. Other issues the writers had was the inclusion of death. Quite literally, as censorship back then greatly limited violence depicted in cartoons. Saban and Fox Kids had a strict no mention of death policy, which caused a slight problem for the inclusion of Thanos' true love, who was the actual embodiment of death in the Marvel Universe. To get around this, they renamed her Lady Chaos. Pip the Troll's love of cigars was also replaced for obvious reasons: action. The show isn't just about shooting and blowing things up, often taking a backseat to world building and character motivations, but when there is action it is decently executed and often subtle and clever. Voice cast. Veteran of television actor Paul Eisenberg voices the Silver Surfer. A lot of regulars from previous Marvel shows are also featured. James Blendick, who played Apocalypse to perfection in the X-Men animated series, takes on an even more ambitious part with Galactus, bringing both power and an odd nobility to the Devourer of Worlds. Actor Colin Fox portrays the Watcher. Alison Shirley Smith, who voiced Storm in the X-Men animated series, voices Gamora. She is joined by fellow X-Men voice actor Norm Spencer in the role of Drax. Both are joined by Professor X himself, Cedric Smith, as mentor. However, Gary Crawford steals the show as Thanos, bringing a wonderful level of energy to the well-named Mad Titan. The Clancy Brown effect. Whenever I watch any cartoons, the first thing I check is, does it feature Clancy Brown? Clancy Brown is one of the all-time greats of cinema and television, most famous for his roles as the Kurgan in Highlander and Lex Luthor in the Bruce Timm DC era. Still to this day, the best Lex Luthor. The man has done a lot of voice work over the years, to the point where his presence has almost been a constant in shows I watched growing up. As a result, any show not featuring him will never in my eyes be truly great. Is he in the Silver Surfer? No. Wait, what? No, he's not. That's going to cost it a megamind. Soundtrack. The score was written by Shakai Levy, an Israeli-American composer who was the co-founder of Saban Entertainment and co-creator of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. His previous work includes co-producing the music to most of the series of Power Rangers, Sweet Valley High, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Samurai Pizza Cats, Jason the Wheel Warriors, Ulysses 31, Digimon, Inspector Gadget, Mask. He's done like 125 theme tunes. Is Shakai Levy the greatest musician that ever lived? The Shakai Levy effect. From now on, whenever I watch an animated show, I check to make sure it features the work of Shakai Levy, who currently holds the world record for most theme songs composed. How meta is it? The show is packed with nods to the comic's source material, in particular the inclusion of obscure characters from the comic's lore, as mentioned earlier, featuring eternity and infinity, arguably one of the more extreme ideas in comics, as well as having the watcher narrate the recaps to previous episodes, which works as a nice nod to the comics, as he would often be utilised as a way of recapping previous issues that the reader may have missed. Sadly, though The Silver Surfer was generally well received with good ratings, it was at the time where Marvel was facing bankruptcy, something that is unthinkable now. This led to its cancellation, and with that the ending of the 90s era of Marvel animated shows. Typically, this had the show end on a cliffhanger. Larry Brody has said that the plan was to bring in Marvel villain Mephisto for Season 2, who is the literal devil in the Marvel Universe. The challenge of getting past Saban's censorship of the devil and the concept of hell was a challenge he and the other writers wanted to tackle, as well as the introduction of the Fantastic Four, who were absent originally because Brody wanted the story to be the Silver Surfers. An adaptation of the Infinity Gauntlet story was also planned, but sadly this was never to be. The quality of this show, though dated in certain ways, is still standout in its bold writing and excellent character designs. 3 megaminds. It's a bit of a hidden gem. Older fans of Marvel will enjoy a lot of what this show has to offer, definitely showing the early steps writers at that time were taking in telling stories that on Saturday mornings adults and children could both enjoy. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Until next time.